guys are bookended by the Potzes.
Hello and welcome to the Pixel Scandal Nerdcast, episode 31. I am Kurt.
Was it really that fast?
Nightson, Oreztes, Gigett.
Yeah, I'm Gigett. I guess I don't get to introduce myself.
Good job, everybody. Crushed it.
Oh, this is going to be a great show, guys.
We've got a great show for you tonight.
I feel like that's a thing, like hello and welcome. We always have to screw up the intros.
Yeah, of
I'm
course.
just doing my part to maintain some sort of semblance.
Good job.
I mean, obviously,
That's
right?
consistency for you. Good job.
Yeah.
So, Kurt, where can people find us on the internet?
Oh, if people want to find us on the internet, they can find us all over the place. Like, I've never done this before, right? Like, oh, really? You want to talk about that? Okay, I guess.
I guess I could tell you guys.
If people want to find us, they can go to pixelscandal.com and find out all sorts of information about the show, like watch past episodes, find links to our Twitch channel, YouTube, social media channels. They can, all sorts of stuff, good stuff over there. They can also, if they want to, they can email us by emailing pixelscandal@gmail.com to tell us, like, stuff they want to do on the show or things that they thought we should do better, or, I don't know, just ask for advice, marriage advice or general life advice.
Gaming
Should
advice.
you get a turtle or a dog? Turtle.
Or both.
Dog.
Yeah.
Or
Por
some weird
Los Dos.
genetic hybrid.
Yeah. Some genetic hybrid. Yeah.
Those are called chimeras.
That's a
Yeah.
chimera.
Should they get a chimera?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right?
The answer's
So
always yes.
yeah,
Well,
if
cool.
you'd like us to talk about that kind of stuff, you can do that.
Yeah.
You can also find us on social media at Twitter and stuff.
You already said that.
Pixel Scandal.
Yeah. So tonight's spotlight topic is going to be about holiday gaming with your family and or like friends, your non-gamer people in your life, and how to still kind of enjoy playing games around those kinds of people. But before we get to that, Nightson, do we have any announcements?
No. So as usual, we have our Sunday night game night tomorrow at 4 p.m. PST. It will be something, maybe. Who knows?
Who knows?
Everyone's
probably won't be
disappearing
here.
into the mist, so we'll improvise something.
It's that time of year.
Yeah. I have the next episode of Hitman 2 coming out on Tuesday.
Yay.
More
It's a
shooting and
Hitman.
stabbing. And the like. Additionally, we have our paper scandal side quest of demigods
Woohoo.
Woo!
on Saturday, December 29th at 9 a.m.
Yay.
Yeah, with Jason Mills.
Yeah. A PBTA hack in which we are all the scions of a god and a mortal.
Nice.
Woot.
Yeah. I'm
I think it's
excited.
the four of us.
Yeah.
It might be.
Yeah. It's totes us.
Yeah.
Dream team,
So-
guys.
Dream team.
So
Yeah.
so it'll be us plus, Mr. Mills.
Yes.
Yes.
Which will be
Oh, yeah. Oh, I can talk about it in excited stuff.
Yeah, Kurt,
and
shut your
then also we have our next Dungeon World game because we did our most recent Dungeon World game about 12 hours ago.
Yeah.
And you can go watch that and enjoy it and all that jazz. But the next one is January 12th. Wow, that is a long way away. On the 9th,
Yeah.
9 a.m.
At 9 a.m. The 12th at 9 a.m.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It seems like it would be a long way away, but it's going to show up real fast.
Yeah. It'll be awesome. It's the
We
second
have that-
Saturday, so, you know.
Yeah, you have those 2 weeks at the end of the year that just go, I'm sorry, what happened?
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
we're already scheduling stuff out through March, so January is going to show up real fast.
Yeah.
But I'm still going to forget everything that's happened by then.
Yeah,
Oh,
that's okay.
completely.
That's okay.
Yeah.
So let's move into what we're excited about. So I actually have not seen the trailer yet. So who wants to
Roll
talk
that
about it?
clip.
I don't have it. I don't have that. You're going to have to Google it.
Yeah.
I'm not prepared.
Oh, my God.
So the new Avengers Endgame trailer has finally been released. Taking forever. It was supposed to come out, I think, like 2 weeks ago, 2 or 3
Yeah.
weeks ago.
Yeah.
And finally has been released. And why is the movie out yet?
Right? Oh, my gosh. It looks crazy.
I mean, honestly, per usual, I try not to watch the trailers because I find that they have all the good parts in the trailer. So when you watch it, you're like, this is all the good parts. I already saw this movie.
Yeah.
I could understand that for anything that isn't that particular series. Because, sure, there's a lot of good parts, but it's only a small sample.
Yeah, I'm usually that way about things I'm excited about seeing. Like, I don't want to see the trailer because it's either going to spoil something or it's going to make me, like, give me expectations for the movie. And if I'm already excited about it, like, I want to go into it ready to enjoy it and not have any expectations.
Right. So I have to admit, I had a little bit of an issue this week when I saw the trailer. And then I was on Facebook maybe like 6 hours later. And someone I'm friends with posted Ronin in all caps everywhere on all their social medias. And I was like, I don't know what that's about. Maybe it's about samurais. Because I didn't know who Ronin was. Because I'm not a super Avengers nerd. And I didn't know who Ronin was. Or that Hawkeye was dressed as Ronin.
Yeah.
So I felt I had to turn in my geek badge and gun.
I'll be honest, Ronin
Not
is
really.
super obscure. Like, if you aren't an Avengers fan or a Hawkeye fan, you missed him.
Yeah. I did do some reading though to find out who the hell Ronin was. Apparently, Hawkeye. Okay, so this is going to be spoilers so cut ahead 30 seconds. Apparently, Hawkeye dies. And then comes back. The article did not say how. It was like, you don't need to know.
It's comic books.
Yeah, and then someone else is dressed as Hawkeye. A new person has taken up the mantle and has trick arrows and all that kind of stuff. So Hawkeye just dresses up as Ronin and goes around doing stuff.
Sure, why not?
That's where Ronin comes from.
Who knows? Well, cool. Moving right along.
Yeah.
Apparently there's this thing called Christmas coming up this soon.
I know. I love it that
What?
someone
I'm
else
not familiar.
put it on the list for me because Christmas is coming and I'm so
Yeah, it's marked as Christmas obligatory, yay, exclamation mark, exclamation mark, exclamation mark.
Yep. It is 17 days till Christmas. I am very excited. I'm about halfway done with all of my Christmas shopping. I did not do any Christmassy-ish things this week, I don't think. Last thing I did was build a gingerbread house.
Mm-hmm.
But there's definitely lots of Christmas stuff coming up this week, so I'm very excited. Because Christmas!
Yeah, Christmas.
All
I'm
right.
about 80% done with Christmas shopping and about 90% done with Christmas shipping. Amazon to give me like 3 things.
I'm probably about like 60% done shopping. I've got a bit more to do still.
90%. I literally have 2 people left to buy for. So
I have a list. Like, I know what I'm getting everyone. I just haven't purchased all the things yet.
Mm-hmm.
Nope. I literally need to find inspiration for the last little bit.
I think there's one person I don't know what to buy. But I can't say who it is because you guys all know them.
Yeah. The walls have ears.
The walls have ears. So anyway.
It probably doesn't help that you're putting ears in front of your face and telegraphing to the internet.
The Twitch stream has ears.
The Twitch stream has ears. But yeah, so who is taking a vacation from work?
Everybody?
Nope.
Not
Oh,
I.
that's unfortunate. Nah.
Who's
Get
taking
the last week off work?
You get a week off of work?
Yeah, the week between Christmas and New Year's.
Oh, nice.
I am
excited for that.
also taking that week off. I don't get it off, but I'm taking it off.
I normally take that week off, but I had a lot of... I was sick a lot this year, and so I ended up having to dump a bunch of my vacation time into sick time.
Yeah.
I was saving up a lot of vacation time for us to go to PAX, and then we canceled our PAX trip, so now I have all this extra vacation time that I'm like, fuck it, I'll take off some Christmas time. So...
Well played. Well played.
Yeah.
Good times.
So who's up next?
What is it? The Games Awards thingamajig this last
Game
week?
Awards.
Something. I don't know. I didn't watch it. Didn't really care.
I watched a tiny bit.
But I will say, super excited about the Outer Worlds trailer. Obsidian is putting out a Fallout space steampunk kind of or cyberpunk kind of thing. It's super awesome, and I am really excited to see what they're going to do with it. And seeing as we will not get a proper Bethesda Skyrim Fallout game anytime soon, I'm very, very much excited.
Nice.
Yeah, I watched that trailer. It looks right up my alley. I mean, it looks a lot like Borderlands and Fallout New Vegas. Like, that's sort of the feel that I got from it. Both things that are kind of awesome. It's a space western, which is really cool. I dig space westerns. Yeah, sure.
Trigun?
Yeah, or Firefly. Right, it's you were at the edge of space in a little corporate in a company town, basically. Yeah, it looks neat. I hope it's not just a shooter. I hope there's some depth to it.
Story.
Yeah, there's some story to it. So
have you played any of the Fallout?
Well, I mean, if they did Fallout New Vegas, so it should be fine. Like that shouldn't be an issue. But it didn't. There wasn't a lot of like information about gameplay in the trailer.
Well, this is
Just
the
the
first
setting.
announced. Like this is literally probably
Wasn't-
still 2 years out.
Wasn't there something else about the Game Awards thingies that everybody was excited about last night?
Oh, I posted Sonic Fox won best esports player.
Because he won the game at the thing with the Evo.
He won the game with the thing with the stuff.
Yeah. It took me a second to get to Evo.
Yeah.
It's like the thing with the game with the Evo. There we go.
That's the one.
Come on, nerd brain, kick in. Well, cool. All right, Kurt, go ahead.
Ooh. Okay, so next week, the Pixel Scandal Nerdcast is going to be on romance in RPGs and role-playing romantic scenes and that kind of stuff. And we have a special guest, and I feel confident that we can announce who that guest is going to be. So we're going to have Alex Roberts, author of Starcrossed and For the Queen, and host of the Backstory podcast. She'll be joining us to talk about romance and RPGs and all sorts of fun stuff. She's done a bunch of panels on the topic, and she's written a game that's all about forbidden love between two players. So I'm excited to hear her take on the topic, and I think it's going to be an interesting show.
Nice.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
So that'll be next week, Saturday, 8 p.m.
I'm really
Pacific.
glad that we're at the point where we can officially say that she will be on the cast. Since, we kind of knew, but like we wanted to make sure that we were close enough before we officially announced. So
Yeah.
that'll be very cool to have her on.
Yeah, I'm excited.
Yay. Well, cool. So what has everyone been playing recently?
Well, I mean, we played Dungeon World this morning.
We did.
That was fun.
Yeah. That was very fun. Yeah, I mean, I feel like we had a really great game. And I feel like it was a really interesting piece. Maybe not the most interesting game we've had to date, but I definitely think that it was a game that kind of shows the journey that we're going on and like where we're headed as a group, which I mean, sometimes those not super flashy sessions can still like really influence the direction a game is going to be going. So that's kind of what I liked about it, is that like you can tell from this session that things are changing and that like big things are coming, even though they didn't happen in this session, that they're going to happen. It's like almost like you feel it in the air kind of thing.
It's like the second of a trilogy.
Yeah, it kind of
Like,
felt like
here's the setup.
Yeah, it felt like the second of a trilogy where last week was really interesting, and I know next week's going to be really interesting. This week was very like, all right,
Here's some setup.
some stuff's coming, which was kind of neat.
I don't know. I think it's been fun. This was our 7th session of Dungeon World, so we've kind of gotten a feel for like what Dungeon World is and how we want to use it. I think everyone's sort of hitting their stride with the way the basic moves work. I know that this game,
But we just stopped rolling dice altogether.
well, yeah, this game we barely I think we rolled dice 5 times,
Yeah.
or something. Through
I think
the
we
course
each
of
did it
the-
once or something.
Yeah, through the course of the 3-hour game. So yeah, it was interesting. We've sort of gotten to that point where we don't feel like we're forcing the system into what we're doing. We're just sort of going through and playing the game. So,
Yeah. Totes.
it's good times.
Well, cool. Who's up next?
I have been playing Gorn.
What the hell
you
is
will all
that?
wonder what the hell is Gorn. So I finally got to set my Vive back up because I picked up the wireless adapter, which makes it 100 times better in every way,
nice.
shape, or form. Wires on a VR headset are really irritating because as you move around, you start tying yourself in a knot.
Yeah.
And so I got that. So I, set everything back up, got it going. And Gorn is an arena simulator, like a gladiator arena, and you grab a weapon and you wail on guys. And it's like super cartoony, but super violent.
Okay.
Cartoon violence. Woohoo!
Yeah, like ripping people's heads off and whatnot.
Nice.
It's good entertainment.
Is it a multiplayer game or is it like?
No, it's completely single player.
Cool.
Just endless waves of guys who need to be stabbed in the face repeatedly.
Yeah.
Awesome.
But it's just that illusion to make you think that you're not actually moving around,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
tricking the brain, as it were.
Right. Cool.
That's pretty neat.
Yeah.
Who's playing League?
I played League this week.
And I'm gonna have to ask: is there a new Teemo skin?
There is not a new Teemo skin. I played BMO, because it's the cutest damn skin of all. But our child, and he's not a child, but our child wanted to play League, so I played League with him this week, and I forgot how much fun that game is. Because, we play it too much for a while, and then I forget, I don't know, I get sick of it, and I'm like, I hate this game. And then I leave it for, months, and then come back and play and go, oh, yeah, that was really fun. Why don't we play this game more? So I'm sure I'll play League again. For that.
Probably because half of our group absolutely hates any form of competitiveness.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
against other players.
Yeah. Against each other.
Yeah. So, yeah, no, it was really fun, and I played BMO, and it was great.
Nice.
Yeah. We've all been playing Fortnite this week. Well, not Oreztes.
Yeah, I
But-
played a little bit.
Huh?
Yeah.
I played a little Fortnite.
No, I know, but Oreztes didn't play.
I have it. I bought the expensive legendary pack, and I opened all my llamas, and then I uninstalled the Epic launcher.
Yeah, so Nightson, Kurt, and I, and Luda's Life played some Fortnite over this last week.
Yeah.
They've changed, the way the skills work and where you put your points in things and the launcher and everything.
They heavily simplified it. There's no more of the skill tree things. It's just squares, and you just put your points into them.
Mm-hmm.
So it's four cards, and you just mash the card and to put points in. So that's interesting, or less interesting, anyways.
Yeah.
Well, I will say it looks like they're although the story's not completely done, with the UI reboot, it looks like they're definitely on their push for we will be releasing soon. TM.
Yeah, more content.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was fun.
But I forgot how much I like the game, especially the PvE, base building and stuff.
PvP, no, not interested.
So I noticed they have a, I don't know, what's it called, your island or whatever. Is that just
creative mode?
Okay, that's creative mode where you can just go build.
So has anybody played around with that at all?
No, mostly because there's no point.
Mm-hmm.
You're not going to have people run at you.
Well, there's no gameplay loop. It's literally just I never played creative Minecraft either.
Mm-hmm.
I saw no point in. I'm just going to design things and make things look cool.
Yeah.
That is the poison to my being.
Yeah. I remember I would go play creative mode on Sims back in the day.
Yeah, I would
Like
do that
Sims
too.
1 and
Like
2,
adjust my house or something.
Yeah, I would just go into creative mode was use the money cheat, but
Oh yeah,
But the
the
advantage of-
ka-ching
of
or the
like-
motherload cheat.
yeah,
But the advantage of like you weren't using creative mode as a look what I'm doing. It was I don't like this part of the game. Let me remove that aspect so I can do other thing.
right.
I'm actually kind of surprised that Kurt that you haven't spent any time in the create your own island thing because you do like building things and creating stuff.
Yeah, well, I just noticed it and haven't loaded up Fortnite on my own. That seems like a solo activity.
That's true.
But
We've
yeah.
been playing together.
Which is sad,
and
because-
my solo game time has been spent on Death Rally. Because I noticed that I had it in my Steam library, and the original Death Rally from the 90s was like my favorite top-down car game of all time. And
Kurt, I have known you for a great many years. And it's very rare that you spend a large amount of time in a video game.
Mm-hmm.
And I just remember earlier this week, you were playing it, and I was like,
Mhm.
you know what? I'm gonna take off, probably head to bed. And I ended up watching something on TV or whatnot, and came back like an hour and a half just on my way through. And I'm like,
Yeah.
he's still playing that damn game at like 11:30.
Yeah, I played it for like 5 hours or something like that, and then I
had gone to bed and he was still in here.
I got the achievement halfway there, and I was like, shit, I think I just got to the halfway point of the game. I might as well put it down for the night.
Oh Lord.
But there's no progression really. I mean, you level up your cars with the money that you get, but it's real bare bones, and mostly there's not a lot of choice that has to go into the cars. It's just you're gonna get enough money to level them to full to max by the time you've unlocked the next car.
Mm-hmm.
So there's not a lot of choice in the game. It's literally just left and right keys and do I boost or not, and when do I shoot at the car in front of me? Like, it's such a like brain dead game, but I just love playing it. Yeah, it's super fun.
Well, I mean, now I feel like I need to fess up to the other thing I played this week, which was Civilization.
Civ 5?
I sat here and played Civ like two times this week for a couple of hours both times, just for no reason at all, just to sit here and hang out and be on chat with you guys. And I was like, I don't really have a video game I want to play. Oh, I'll play Civilization.
Yeah.
So, yep, I did that this week.
Something I forgot to mention that I was excited about was so I recently I a while back I wrote a lasers and feelings hack called Sharks and Guns and Sharks.
Yeah.
I wrote it because
Basically on a bet.
It wasn't
lack
even
of
a
better term.
It wasn't
No,
a
it was-
bet. It
yeah.
was so I was in a
joke.
Discord.
Yeah, no, that's what I mean. It's like for no reason.
Yeah, and people were talking about GNS game theory, right? The I don't know. There's a game theory. You can Google GNS theory. And someone said GNS makes a bad game, but previously someone had joked GNS like Guns and Sharks. And so I was like, makes a bad game my ass. And so I went took an hour and wrote Guns and Sharks. And then I was really into it, so I made a logo and I did some layout. And so this week I went and made an itch.io account and put it up for free so people can go download it, because it's a lasers and feelings hack, so it has to be Creative Commons license. So you can't pay me for it. It's free. Go download it. Have fun with. Tell all the Deep Blue Sea shark movie bullshit stories you want. You can find it by searching Guns and Sharks on itch.io or going to kurtpotts.itch.io.com or something like that. Yeah, go look for it there or email the show, and maybe I'll put it in the show notes. But yeah, have at. It's all yours.
Oh my god. That's amazing. I forgot something else I'm excited about, guys.
What's that?
And it's something I know Nightson was very excited about because he did not sleep last night because of it.
I was amazed he didn't make the doc, and I was like, it's not my place to bring it up.
Well, I mean, I hadn't messed with the doc since yesterday. the Kickstarter for Savage Worlds, they're starting to release the digital content to backers.
Yeah, they are.
So we got our first look at the new rules for Savage Worlds, the new hindrances, the new edges.
They're so good. They're so good.
They've really, I mean, I personally feel like they've added some great stuff to the game. They're really making the powers and the wizard part of Savage Worlds more interesting.
If you ever looked at Savage World and you spent any time there and you're like, you know what, magic's boring, and I am definitely of that belief. It really relied too much on the trappings system.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, inject your own flavor, make it interesting your own way.
Yeah,
which is lazy. They have completely injected a lot of love into Magic, and so if you were of that variety that you're like, you know what, it's boring, it isn't. They have drastically increased the amount of power points, reduced costs.
The regen on PowerPoints is ridiculous now. I mean, if you have rapid recharge and rest for an hour, you get 20 points back. Not 1 point per hour, just like, but if just 20 points for chilling out for an hour.
It's so funny. We've been playing Savage on and off for 5 years now.
Oh, 10 years.
And it's funny that you see where you have your in D&D or most traditional games, you have your casters, and they may start off with the old joke, second edition wizard starts off as like, I get one magic missile, and then it's quarterstaff for the day.
Yeah.
Right.
But eventually, you get to a point where it's like, I have so many spells to throw away right now.
Mm-hmm.
I can't physically not cast a spell any given time.
Mm-hmm.
I'm good to go. Savage never fixes that.
Yeah.
Savage, literally, we have a 100 XP plus game right now, with 4 casters in some flavors thereof.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And every single one of them has to go, do I really want to cast this spell right now?
Yeah. Yep.
This fixes that problem.
Starved for PowerPoints.
Considering, a worst case scenario, you're throwing the 2d6 or 3d6 fireball versus the stabby guy at the same power level is going, yeah, I just did 30 damage.
Right. Well, I think what's neat is the sustained spells, like the fact that they're changing it from like every spell having their own whatever to like, okay, you spend this much and you get to sustain or whatever. Like it's
unintuitive.
One more PowerPoint. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
One PowerPoint, an extra whatever the duration is. It's super simple. You can explain it to absolutely anyone in 3 seconds.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so much more effective.
Right. I think it's really neat that they're adding like a core skills part to character creation where you get like, I think it's like 5 skills. It's like every character starts out with these 5 skills no matter what, and then you build on top of that with the skills to specialize your character. And I think that's fantastic because it is really stupid when you're like, I don't have notice because I wanted my character to be very specific in this direction and I just didn't have the points to spend to pick up notice. And it's like, so I'm just shitty at looking around and figuring out what's going on. Like, just because I didn't have the one extra skill point to toss over and notice. Like,
I'll be honest, I found Savage, the version that's been out for a million years, to have a lot of the same problem as second edition D&D did, which was skill bloat.
Mm-hmm.
There's 25, 30 skills on that piece of paper.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And half of them are worthless.
Mm-hmm. Well,
except for that one time you're like, oh shit, I don't have swimming. Yeah, I just drowned.
Right. Which I think is funny. They took swimming away as a skill now, but they added can't swim as a hindrance, which is kind of funny. So, I mean, basically what that's saying is like, okay, everybody can generally swim unless you can't swim. Like, if you're going to swim a long way, all right, we're going to make like a vigor check or something so you don't drown. But like...
I always like that about the, like Shadowrun did this, where anyone can drive a car, anyone can shoot a gun, or do any of these things normally, untrained, doesn't matter.
Right.
It's the can you do it under stress? Can you do it cool?
Yeah.
Right.
Can you do it fast enough for it to matter in 6 seconds?
Yeah.
What was the other thing they changed? The skill.
They added athletics and lumped throwing and like throwing, swimming, climbing.
So throwing's athletics now?
Yeah. Throwing is in athletics, which means professions that boost athletics are a combat stat.
Right.
But fighting is still versus parry, and so that means shooting and throwing are still better
than fighting. Yeah. Just as far as target number kind of thing.
I don't know. There's a point at which your numbers get so high, like when you have a D12 plus 2 in your stat, like parry's not as big of an issue as like. Sure, the ranged guy's always going to get a raise because they're going to get an 8, but odds are that the melee person is probably going to get a raise as well. Like,
especially with gang up bonus and that kind of thing.
Yeah, when you load up gang up bonus and all that stuff, unless you're fighting someone who's like extremely skilled and they've got like a 10 parry or something. But like the difference between a 4 and a 6 to hit is not a huge difference when you get to like veteran.
The difference between a 4 versus even a 10 is really not that big. As weird as it sounds, once you have a couple of pluses.
Yeah. I liked some of the edges that they added, like the edge, where if you take that edge and you get under a 5 in your combat card, then you get what is it? You get to. Oh God! Now I can't.
You ignore negatives.
Yeah, you ignore negatives. You can do the multi-action penalty.
If you have less than a 5 on your initiative, you ignore up to 2 or you ignore -2 of negatives, which means you can do multi-actions because you're like taking your time to think about what you're gonna do.
Right. Yeah.
And there's a hindrance where I think it's like slow or something where you draw 2 cards and take the lowest. But it doesn't hinder jokers.
You get to keep jokers. So.
Yeah, you get to keep jokers no matter what.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, I mean those two together, that would be awesome.
So you take that hindrance, you take the 5 or lower thing, and then you take the joker powers.
Yeah. And then you just always plan on going last. Like you just build a character that's like the cleanup, right? Like you just you're cool with going last because you know you're going to be able to do a lot of cool shit when you get to your turn.
Yeah.
And they made a couple changes to support like the leadership edges, because in the old Savage Worlds, leadership, it was always kind of a house rule that you would let me use leadership edges on wild cards. But there's actually a mechanic for it now, and there's an edge you can take that like you have a command radius, so like you can only affect allies with, but you can make that bigger.
Yeah.
So.
Well, and the whole your combat card thing.
Tactician.
Tactician. It's every round. You get 1 card every round, or you take improved tactician. You get 2 every round. Which is
instead of making a knowledge battle roll at the beginning of the combat.
Yeah,
I do like the new tactician way more than the old one.
Yeah.
It definitely had like the book was it's no slouch. It definitely had a feeling of going from like D&D 3 to 3.5. It was let's clean up things, let's make things better, just all around. Unless you're weird science, and then it broke it, and then it's sad.
But in the end, it is still Savage Worlds, and we have still been playing it for 10 years.
Yeah, that's true. But we could say that about almost any game. I mean, we played Shadowrun for almost 3. We've been playing D&D forever, so.
Yeah, but Savage World has a certain sameness. Like, even D&D, there's 300 classes. You could probably and have a different experience.
I think at the very least, I'd like to take one of the many plot point campaigns that's going to come with this and try to run something.
Oh my God, we're getting so many PDFs.
It's
like 50 starter things as were stretch goals. They hit so many stretch goals.
Yeah. Well, they made $500,000 on the Kickstarter.
Yeah.
So that but yeah, I at the very least I'd like to take something from all the stuff that I backed and run it for the group and that way we can test out the new rules and see what they're like and try a story out and see if we like Savage, and then maybe we'll put it on a shelf and ignore it for a while and come back to it again in the future.
Yeah.
Since I bought a big pretty book, I feel like we should use it.
It'd be interesting to check out Crystal Heart. Crystal Heart looks like a really, if you're not familiar, Up to 4 Players is a comic that did a webcomic called Crystal Heart, where they basically explain how to play Savage Worlds with like illustrated showing the dice, and like they have the players at the table and the characters, and they jump back and forth between frames, and then they show like, oh, you got to raise, and they have like pictures of dice. So they have this awesome like how to play Savage Worlds guide as their thing. So if you're new to Savage Worlds or you want to learn how to play it, that Crystal Heart comic is actually a really good starting place.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they're putting out a setting book, so that'll be neat.
Yeah. Well, cool. Let's go ahead and move into our spotlight topic for tonight, which is going to be gaming with family or non-gamers. It's the holidays, and sometimes we're like, oh, this is a boring family event. We should play a game. So we're gonna talk about how to make that happen. Nightson, you want to kind of jump us in here?
Sure. Well, the sad truth is, every holiday is known for, and maybe not sad truth, but it is a reality that you will end up with at some family gathering or another. And why should we try to break from our addictions for even a few days? Because
Right?
We're obviously not strong enough to do that, or else we wouldn't have a podcast literally talking about being nerds.
I don't have a problem. You have a problem.
I can quit anytime I want to.
I can stop backing Kickstarters anytime.
Yeah, I didn't just spend a whole lot of money on Savage Worlds.
Yeah, and so it's kind of how best to get those folks who traditionally don't classify themselves as gamers, and for that point will never classify themselves as gamers. These aren't the kind of folks that you are ever going to go, oh, this is my girlfriend, this is my friend. I'd like to get them into the hobby, so I'm going to, wean them into it,
Right.
and try to. So it's more of an idea of these kind of folks that it's just like, hey, let's kill a couple hours and have some fun, and go for it. So we kind of went through a list, came up with some ideas, kind of rules of thumb for how to find a game and encourage those around you to check it out.
Yeah. So what game themes do you think work best for this kind of group of people?
Neutral is like as not weird as possible.
Don't make it weird.
The nerd culture is definitely completely grasped on with the younger generation, but as soon as you start talking to our folks, it's a little weirder. So anything high fantasy, high sci-fi tends to weird them out. And even beyond that, the elevator pitch has got to be strong. You got to be able to give this is what the game is basically about in a sentence, and they'll go, oh, okay, I get it.
Right.
Yeah.
So you mean you don't pull out Twilight Imperium at Thanksgiving dinner?
I did, and that's why I'm looking for a new family.
They all left me. I'm looking for. I'm auditioning a new family. If you'd like to.
Loot. You mentioned Power Grid. Power Grid's not bad. It's a little rules heavy, but the theme is simple. You're building power plants. You're generating power to make money. Anyone who lives in or around California can understand a greedy power company.
Yes.
This is a system I understand. Yeah, definitely. I definitely think that the length of time it takes to explain a game directly correlates to a non-gamer's interest in such game. Like if you're sitting there like, okay, so this game, and then it takes you, 20 minutes to explain how the game works. They're not like you lost them after minute 2. Like it's just not going to be a good game if it's going to take that long to explain how to play it.
If it takes more than a minute or two, you've lost people. And the big issue is as soon as you lose one person, then they all start falling away.
Yeah, they like dominoes. They sort of fall together. Something that I've noticed is games that have like a modern day theme or a really strong touchstone with like a movie franchise that's easy to explain are like that's a really great way to get that across to average family. Like it's like Indiana Jones or it's like Rambo, right? You know, like being able to just say like here's a common property that everybody kind of understands is a great way to sort of get that across.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. What else do we have here?
Well, another key thing is you want a game that can take a variable amount of players. You don't want anything that's going to be, we need 4 players. No more, no less.
Mm-hmm.
Hard sell.
And bigger groups are usually better. If you can, if you have a game that can fit 5, fit 10, just so long as it works with 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, all the better. Because you never know when Auntie and Uncle are going to stop by. And they're going to say, ooh, what's that? And you're like, perfect, more victims.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But if Auntie and Uncle stop by and they can't play, well, Auntie and Uncle are now talking to Grandma and Grandpa, and then you've lost your victims.
Right. Your victims. Well, and I think to that, you know, you're talking about like people walking away, like the length of game is also really important. Like if you pick a game that's going to take 2 hours to play, Auntie and Uncle are not going to sit down and play that game with you. You're going to lose them real quick.
Right.
Well, especially you're thinking about like if there are meals being prepared or things that are happening else. Like everyone has that. Oh, we're literally looking to kill some time right now.
Right.
And then it's back and forth. And so if you have games that are 10, 15-minute rounds, it's really easy to go, oh, okay, I'll sit out this one. And then you're like, perfect. And then that really plays into the variable player amount too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You might have some really old people in your family. They don't have much time left. They don't want to devote a large percentage of it to playing a board game.
Spending time with you. Damn kids.
They don't want to do that.
Well, and like, I mean, on top of that, if family members require glasses and didn't bring them, then games with small text on cards is right out.
Well, and honestly, that's something that we've run into a few times with Kurt's mom, is that she does require glasses to see, and she doesn't always bring them when she comes over to hang out with us. And so if she knows we're going to ask her to play a game, we have to say like,
she doesn't bring her glasses.
Right. But like if she's coming over to hang out with us, like Kurt will say, "Hey mom, if you want to play a board game with us, don't forget your glasses," right? Yeah. And so like we know if she's interested in playing a board game with us because she does or doesn't bring her glasses to visit.
Well, honestly, card-based games tend to offset their rules by putting rules on the cards rather than the rule book, which is super convenient for those, entry to medium level board gamers because the rules would take 5 seconds to explain. Oh, here's the exceptions on the card.
Yeah.
As soon as you add alcohol to the mix and people who don't really care, that premise fails pretty heavily. So I would avoid cards with words on them.
Right.
Or at least tons of words on them.
That cute tree building one is called Kodama. She was saying that cute tree building game was a fun game.
Oh, yeah.
But I also feel like Kodama was really fun, but it's a little too complicated for someone who doesn't play board games at all. Because I feel like the whole paying attention to the pictures on them, you're definitely going to lose if you don't have any type of like strategy game background at all. And so like if you want grandma to lose or auntie to lose or whatever, okay, cool, we'll play Kodama. I can explain it to you, but like they will lose because you have more experience playing board games than they do, and so the strategy part of it is going to be a barrier, I think.
Yeah, I think a lot of times if the game is cute though or simple, like the concept is cute and fun, winning is not necessarily the only concern of a family member who's playing with you. They just want to chat with you at the table and look at some cute pictures. And so, I mean, that's not everybody, but like, if you have an older relative or somebody who's just like, I'd just like to spend 20 to 30 minutes with you talking, right?
Yeah.
losing the game is not necessarily the biggest issue, but I would say you might want to look for things with shorter rounds, like you mentioned, 10 to 15-minute rounds, because it means they're going to be able to see the effects of their choices more quickly, and be able to gauge, like, oh, I did this, I failed, this is why, I can make a change. And so those like quick rounds make it easy to sort of like build on what you're doing. Something else is like having visible heuristics. Like if you can see the results of your actions really quickly and they're very obvious of like, oh, I did this, I got this many points or whatever, then it makes it a little easier for new people to understand. Whereas like some games, the heuristics, the like, what are the effects of my actions are obscured. They're like hidden behind some sort of mask or you know,
all the points are at the end, and so
all
like,
the points are at the end, and
so
so you don't really know what your choices mean.
Yeah, in a traditional game with actual board gamers, points at the end is the best way to play because it makes it a lot more engaging. There's never the I am so far behind. Why do I even care?
Right. That's honestly, and it's at the bottom of this list, but I'm actually gonna talk about it now. That's why I like Ticket to Ride so much, because you get points as you go, but then you also total up at the end. So as you're going, there's that like that back and forth of like, oh, this person's out in front, and then I passed them, and but you also know that you're holding more points in your hands. So the game isn't decided at the end, like before the game is over kind of thing. Like you still have more points to put on the table. And so, I mean, Ticket to Ride is one of my suggestions for a game recommendation because it's a little more traditional, like the Monopoly or the Life or, you know, those kind of traditional games where there's actual pieces and you're moving them around. And you count points as you go and get points at the end. So it kind of feels satisfying, I think, for everybody. But,
all right. Any more generic thoughts before we kind of get into our list of a couple of suggestions and why we think so?
Our list is mostly board games, but I do have a couple of like more narrative games suggestions. Like if you're going to try to introduce an RPG type game or a story game, and one of the
ballsier
things
than I.
yeah.
Well, yeah, but if that's
Fiasco.
sure, but if that's the type of game you want to introduce, there's a couple of things I would say to keep in mind. There is a lot of times you might think the least amount of rules the better because they don't have to learn as much or absorb as much to play the game. But a lot of story games that go really rules light don't have enough of a framework to sort of guide you through play.
Yeah, and it can make people feel uncomfortable when you're like, we're going to play pretend, and they've never done it before, and then they feel awkward, so then they just feel like they're being silly.
Yeah, so if you're looking for a game that is more RPG or story game, you're going to want something that has a structure to it that is obvious, right? That is easy and is prompting people and giving them interesting ways to contribute, rather than just relying on them to completely, create something whole, out of nothing.
Yeah.
And then also I would say, know your audience, like they're your family, if you're going to Thanksgiving dinner and there's going to be like a huge political discussion, maybe you don't do anything about that. Or like for me, for my family, my family, I feel fairly confident that my family, I could get away with pulling out Cards Against Humanity and everybody would be like, this is awesome. This is cool.
If you have, if you have that family, trust me, you have that family.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Cards Against Humanity is probably the best item on this list if you have that family.
Oh yeah,
but
absolutely.
The problem is, my family that would play Cards Against Humanity plays literally nothing but poker, and I hate poker. That's why I don't go over there. for New Year's, like they have poker tournaments and all that good stuff.
You come to our house.
They all love poker. Yep. So I'm just like, not a fan. I'm not a fan of poker. I played it a lot. I learned how to play it since I was like 4. So no, I've had my fill. I don't need to play poker anymore ever again in my lifetime. But on the same hand, they don't ever want to play Cards Against Humanity because they love doing their thing. So I don't.
Yeah.
Well, and a good point about the whole political thing is with Cards Against Humanity, there are cards in there that lean one way or the other. And if you don't agree with your family on certain views and you're going to laugh at certain things that's going to make them uncomfortable and they're going to laugh at things that make you uncomfortable, don't pick that game.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, even if you know that would be appropriate, sometimes it could also create a huge fight. So keep that in mind.
It also probably isn't a horrible idea to self-censor the cards in that literal case.
Yeah.
You can literally just go
things.
through and go, okay, this is a little too far.
Yeah.
Right. What is it? The gray broth that sustains Mitt Romney or something, like, the ones that are definitely like political, you could go through and sit, or the black half of Obama, the white half of Obama, like just go through and filter out the cards that could be a hot button issue, and then you get to play the super inappropriate game without talking about politics.
You can have dick fingers.
With a little bit of effort, you can even make it work for a mixed age audience,
or just play apples to apples, because
Or
Cards Against Humanity is apples to apples with dirty cards.
With dirty cards, that's true. That is very true. But let's kind of going on our less, I guess, party game, because that was, I think Cards Against Humanity is the most party game that we would recommend.
Yeah.
Kurt, why don't you talk about your first recommendation here?
Sure.
Or I guess two recommendations.
So I have two here, and they're both kind of, they're a similar theme. Parade and Guillotine. Parade is a game of matching numbers and colors. So it uses standard cards, or not your cards, but it uses like 1 through 10 of numbered cards, and it has like different colors. So there's I guess 6 colors of cards. And what you want to do is you want to have the least amount of cards face up in front of you at the end of the game, or the least amount of points face up in front of you at the end of the game. And then there's like a row of cards that are out in front, and they have like cute art illustrations on them that are Alice in Wonderland themed. Mm-hmm. So it's like a pretty game. But the game is just, how do I put down cards that make me take the lowest numbers?
And the rules take 3 seconds to explain. Mm-hmm. And everyone makes a mistake 10 seconds into the game.
Yep.
And goes, holy crap, I'm an idiot.
Yeah.
And then goes,
why do I have 50 points and it's round 2?
And I know why I'm an idiot. Let's try. And immediately strategy becomes front and center for them. They're like, I have been immediately punished for my poor play.
Yep.
Is it weird that my gauge for whether or not a game would be easy to teach non-gamers is whether or not I was taught it while I was drunk?
Because
I was taught to play Parade when I was drunk, and I was like, oh, I can play this game.
Yeah.
So that means I can teach it to other people who don't play board games.
Honestly,
we were at a gaming convention.
The attention span of a drunk is probably about the attention span of someone who doesn't classify as a gamer.
Right. If you're on like the 3rd round of like layer of rules, then you've lost them.
Yeah. Exactly.
The other flip side of that is Guillotine, which is another game where you have like a set of cards that go in a row, and they sort of like move along the row, and you do things to affect the order that they're in. And then when they get there are nobles in the French Revolution, and when they get to the end, the guillotine chops their head off, and you take the card, right?
Super fun.
And it's another one where you want either the lowest amount of points, or the highest amount of points.
You want the lowest amount of points.
The lowest amount of points, which means you want like, but there's ways that the cards interact with each other in your hand,
and it's all on the cards.
Yeah, everything is like out in front of you. There's very minimal rules. It's easy to understand what's going to happen to the row. And how your actions affect each other.
And that game goes really quick.
You do rounds in that game.
You're supposed to do 3 rounds of the game, and like each round is like maybe 15 minutes tops.
Yeah.
And you don't have to play all 3 rounds. You can play all 3 rounds. But like if you play one round and everyone's like, okay, this is dumb, you're like, cool, that's the person who won. Having a good time. You spend another, 30 minutes, you've played the entire game. It's a quick game, and each round is so different that it's not like if you lost in the first round, you're definitely going to lose the game kind of thing. So it's kind of neat.
There's one other card game that actually uses normal cards. So if your family is like the poker family where they get or bridge or whatever, and they know how to play normal card games, The Great Damoody is another I played this at Big Bad Con. We were just sitting in the bar and everyone was plowed, and this dude pulled out The Great Damoody and was like, "This is the game we're going to play." And it's one of those games where you put cards face down, and then you have to play the next lowest card like under. So like if they put an 8, you have to put a 7, and then the 5 and a 6, and so but you can jump ahead, right? So like a 1 is the best card because no one can play a card lower than that. And if you are the last one to play a card, then you get to go first next time and set the tone. And you play like pairs of cards or sets of cards. So like I played 5 10s. How many, what number set of cards can you play 5 of? And if the answer is nothing, then those cards get moved along. And the goal is just to get rid of your hand. But the reason I think it's an interesting game is there's player roles. So the player who wins becomes the Great Damudi, and they get to be the Great Damudi and talk, and they are in control of the game.
With a hat?
You know what? The dude that ran it had a crazy hat, and he wore the crazy hat. And the person who was the Great Damudi got to wear the crazy hat.
Okay.
And then there's a lesser Damudi, and then a greater peon and a lesser peon, and the lesser peon has to do whatever the Great Damudi says, and the greater peon has to do whatever the lesser Damudi says. And so, like, he was like, okay, the lesser Damudi has to, or the lesser peon has to shuffle the cards and deal with all the deck stuff. And you have to go get me a drink, right? Like, he was doing that kind of stuff. But he was in character as the Great Damudi when he was doing it with his crazy hat. And so it gives you an excuse to sort of, like, inject a tiny little bit of RP and sort of see if they're into it, right? And do you want to go on and try to
see if they're RP curious?
Yeah, see if they're open to like being silly at a table where there's mechanics happening.
Well, cool.
On a quick side note, I really like that if you mouse over the link in the Twitch chat to the BoardGameGeek for these games, it gives you a description of the actual game.
Yeah.
On the pop-up. That's cool in the toolkit.
That's kind of why I pulled the BoardGameGeek links for all of these, because I figured it'd be an easy way for people to go check. And if you've never gone to BoardGameGeek, it's a great website that tells you a lot about the game, how to play it. There's usually pictures of what the game looks like, and people's reviews of the game. And then there's like 4 or 5 places where you could buy it and how much it costs. So it's always a great resource when you're like, oh, somebody mentioned a board game. Let me go look it up and find out if this is something that I would like or my group would like or whatever. And it gives you a lot of really cool information about it. And you can create a library on there to track all of your board games, which I should probably do since we have like over 200. But anyway.
And their forums have a lot of like theory crafting for games, like which is the strongest Sentinels of the Multiverse character and why.
Yep. So if you've never gone to BoardGameGeek.com, it's a really great resource if you're a board game kind of person. So cool. So who threw on the next one?
Oh, you know what? I think I added code names too, but if anyone else wants to speak to it, I'm open.
Well, I want to speak to code names because I think team-based games are incredible for this kind of situation. It is super easy to pit 2 groups of people against each other, and even if they don't care about the game at all, families love to stick it to the other side of the family.
Yep.
That is very true.
I have never seen a more competitive group of people than when we played some form of Pictionary, Men Against Women. Oh my dear Lord, it almost got violent.
Yeah. So Codenames is a game where you split into teams and you have to, without talking, communicate to the other people on your team what the code is behind your screen of the cards that are out on the table. And I think it's... Oh, God, now I can't remember. Do you ask one question and then they can answer it? Or what is it? I don't remember now.
I believe you mentioned words.
Says Spy Masters give one-word clues.
Oh, one-word clues.
To multiple words on the board.
So if the word on the board is lake, you might say water.
Right. And then you have to pay attention to what's on the table.
Because there might be ocean on the table as well.
Well, there might be like waves, a glass of water, and then like rain. And so you say water, and the people you're trying to point towards the ocean, and they point at the glass of water. You just lost a point.
You might give points to the other team,
right?
Or lose the round right then and there.
Exactly. So it's kind of like Nightson said. It's kind of a cool like competitive game where you get to split into teams and you kind of work together. Usually it's like one person on the team is the clue giver, and then the rest of the team is on the other side, like furiously discussing what they think that one word clue meant, and going, no, but look, there's this one and that one, and you know, that kind of stuff. And every time we've played it, we've been like super competitive about it, and like if you gesture at one, we're like, that's you pointing, and like, you know, we're like, we get kind of over the top about codenames.
One of my favorite things about this game is it's one of those where the quick like trick word you give, you want to try to give a word that means something to you and the people in your team.
Yeah.
So it's great with family who have a shared history to draw on.
Absolutely.
When you're like, Jenny, and it's like, oh, you know, well, sure, okay, right?
Oh, they mean this teddy bear, like, or whatever.
Yeah, right. And then they're like, no, it's teddy bear. That was the name of my teddy bear when I was a kid, right?
Yeah.
They mean that one, right?
Yeah.
And so
it's actually a reason why Kurt and his best friend aren't allowed to play on the same team when we play this game, because they don't say anything that the rest of us understand.
Yeah.
And they just say, like, actual things they have from their shared history. And the rest of us are sitting there going, fuck you, that's not fair. So they're not allowed to be on
and
the team together.
the thing is, the other team, like, if you fail, if your team fails, the other team gets a chance to try to guess, I think.
Yeah.
And if they get it, then it's like, it's a point against you, or...
Yeah.
So they can, like, take that word away or something.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a great family-friendly game.
And they have a lot of different kind of variations of it.
They do.
Now. They have like a Disney one, a Marvel one.
Yeah, we have like the standard edition, and it's every game is very different than you could play it a bunch of times, and the codes are always different, and the where the pieces are on the table are different. So it's definitely a game you can play over and over again too.
Oh yeah. It's a great one it'd
be a good competition game. Like, all right, for the whole weekend, we're going to play code names, and the team that wins gets the family cup or whatever.
Right. And as long as you have 4 people or up, you're good.
Yeah. Because you can do it in couples, too.
Yeah,
pairs.
you can do it in teams.
Yeah.
And it's super easy to drop in or drop out, like even during a round.
Yep. So if you've got like 10 people and you've got 2 teams of 5, like that means each team has 4 people guessing what the words are. Right. And if one person has to drop out, like you still have 3 people on your team that are guessing. Like that doesn't handicap you or make it so that you can't play the game anymore. So it's definitely, it's a good one for that. So cool. Oreztes, you put the next one.
Yeah, I put One Night Ultimate Werewolf. Just for a few reasons. For one, every time we've played it, it's always turned into like just a fun kind of
chaos.
J'accuse.
Yeah.
When have we played One Night?
I don't think so.
We've played, we have
Ultimate Werewolf.
No,
not
played
one,
Werewolf.
not One Night.
One Night Werewolf is a variant of no.
Yeah.
The One Night series is actually a variant of traditional Werewolf.
Oh no, we did play it with.
We've played it.
Yeah,
we played it.
But we don't have it.
Tanaka.
But we've played it.
We played it with Tanaka.
Okay.
Yeah. But I mean, it's you could have a ton of players. You don't have to all sit around a table to do it, right? It's the one where you just get the card and it's like you got your werewolf and your villagers and whatnot. So you just sit in the living room. Everybody just sit on the couch. You just pass out cards. You don't have to all crowd around the table because, like I said, from my family, there's probably 20 or 30 people.
The one nice thing is it stretches to whatever
Big
number you
groups.
want to throw at it.
It's like, how many cards do you have in this deck? All right, throw them all out there. Who cares?
Yeah.
And a thing I like that really works for family situations in One Night versus traditional Werewolf is there's no player elimination.
Yeah.
Which is the death of a lot of games. If as soon as Aunt Sally is no longer playing the game and is watching TV,
the game starts to fall apart.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and a game that's very similar to Werewolf in that you're trying to figure out like who the bad guys are is the game that Nightson that you put on here.
Yeah. So if you like lying to your family and stabbing each other in the back, then I would recommend Resist. It is a little more gamey than Werewolf, and but I feel that it's enough game to actually give some structure to it. Rounds are super fast, and add alcohol and lying to each other, and it is super entertaining. It is one of the few, like, I've been playing board games for 1,000,000 years, and usually you finish up a game and people are like, yeah, that was fun. And then someone asks, should we play again? Should we play something else? I've never. This is the only game I've ever seen where it's like, no, we're playing that again right now.
Yeah, and I mean you and Kurt and I and our mini me all played it, and we did. We played it like 4 or 5 times, like over and over again, because it was so much fun, and it was like, no, we got to do it again. We got to see if like a different combination of cards can like make the outcome different, or if it's just Kurt's a bad liar or whatever.
And the fun thing is the rules scale as far as you want. It goes from a very, very simple game with almost negligible rules to if there are people willing to take it, then you can keep layering on rules, and the rules are simple enough that you're like, oh, you're that or you're that.
Which I think Werewolf does that too, where there's like certain character cards that are a little more complicated, and so depending on the group of people you have, you could just pull those more complicated characters out and just say, we're not going to deal with those real complicated ones. And it's the same thing, I think, with Resistance, where you're like, we're just not going to play with that certain spy or that certain whatever with this group.
But both Resistance and One Night, this is once again one of the know your family. If there's some family history and you don't really care for yelling at each other and lying bold-faced to each other back and forth, it's not the game for you. Maybe something a little more simple, or any of these other games on the list. But if you are the go for the throat kind of folks, big fan.
Well, I mean, here's the thing. I know Kurt so well that I can tell when he's lying. And so a lot of times when we play these kind of like hide your identity things, I purposely don't look at his face so I can't read what he's feeling or thinking or whatever, so that we can still enjoy the game. And sometimes like we're playing a game and he's like, just play it the right way. And I'm like, all right, fine. But, like, I'm going to look at your face and I'm going to know. Like, but that's the kind of thing.
She instantly clocks me in, like, 5 seconds. She's like, oh, he's the villain.
Yeah, he's the villain.
There's another game.
No, he's fine.
That's kind of along this note. I didn't write it here, but I figure I'd mention it. It's called Secrets. And it's the same basic premise, but it's Cold War spycraft.
Oh, cool.
And there's the KGB, there's the CIA, and then there's the hippie.
Nice.
And so there's 3 teams competing. The difference is half the game has you changing your roll cards, and you don't get to look at them again. So you don't know who you are, on top of not knowing.
Isn't there like a King Arthur Avalon type game that has similar mechanic?
No, Avalon, Resistance Avalon. Resistance Avalon is the
Knight of the Round Table.
But fantasy.
And honestly, I think Shadowhunters is another game that fits into that same kind of like hide your identity kind of game.
Traitor.
Traitor.
No, Shadow Bro all the time.
No, Hunter Bro, man.
My only fear for Shadowhunters is that it is a little on the long side.
It is a little long.
And it doesn't handle player number changes very well.
It doesn't. I feel like what it does give you is, because it's not just cards, there's a board in front of you, and there's a little more of structure to it, that maybe that would be better for certain families. If you're like, okay, we're going to dedicate, I don't know, I think it takes like an hour to play that game. And we need the structure and like that kind of thing. I think Shadowhunters is another example of that like hidden identity type game that can be really fun.
I think is a good test run if you're not sure if they'd go for it is Resistance or Coup. Coup is another one where it's one where your identity is secret, and there are abilities that each identity can do, and it's like 5 of them, and it's on a card, and everyone can see it. It's right in the front, and your roll card or whatever is face down, and so you can do any of the 5. You can just say, "Oh, I'm a merchant. I'm going to take 3 coins, or whatever it is, right? 3 credits." And you may or may not be the merchant, so it's a bluffing game, right? If you go around and if someone
more
calls
about bluffing,
So if someone calls you on it and you're wrong and you lied, then you lose one of your roll cards. You only have 2.
It's kind of like playing bullshit, like the card game where you have to put the cards down in order and you put them face down, And then, like, if you don't have the
Yeah.
card when it comes to your turn, someone can call bullshit on you.
Mhm.
It's basically like that,
It's,
but
yeah,
with
it's
character
bullshit with a
cards.
little more rules
Yeah.
and a little bit of a role situation. So that's a good dry run, I think, for games like Shadowhunters, where they're a little more complex. They take longer.
Yeah,
Because
they can
Coup
play
and
Coup
Resistance
or
each take
Resistance.
like 15 to 30 minutes.
Yeah.
Coup can even handle someone dropping.
Yeah.
You could keep playing Coup after losing a player.
Yeah.
Where Resistance requires the board changes, I think, based on how many players you have.
Yeah, the game actually physically changes, which
Right.
is kind of cool. I will say that we tested with 5 players and with 6, and it did not go as well with 6.
I honestly, when we played it with the 3 of us and the mini-me, it was just the 4 of us, right?
No, it's 5. We played 5.
We had Loot as Life was
Oh,
playing.
Loot was there. That's
Yeah.
right. Okay, yeah, because that was definitely more fun with the 5 players than with the 6.
And I think it might have been an odd number is the key, so that there's
Yeah.
uneven teams, and that
Right.
drives it.
Yeah.
But let's move on from the
So moving on from that would be to
Any game with legacy in the name.
Well, the
Podcast over.
last recommendation of I think type of game here is that I put on are push your luck type games, which I think work well when you've got family like Oreztes that like to play poker, or like reading cards and that kind of stuff is not going to be fun, but you could roll some dice and make a decision about that dice.
and it's super fun to watch somebody fail. It's
Yeah.
you get to
Yeah.
see, uncle pull out this. That's like, I'm gonna get this. I've got this. Oh,
So-
it's
right.
just like Yahtzee when you were a kid. It's like, nope,
Yeah.
I'm going for it. We're gonna go for it. Oh, I just ruined my entire game strategy.
So my first, because I have 2 here. My first one is called King of Tokyo. This one feels, I think, a little more board gamey than the next one, but it has a board, and you're trying to be the King of Tokyo, and you attack the other players around you by rolling dice, and the dice give you either punchies, health back, or coins, and that's kind of it. But based on you roll the dice. And you decide which ones you keep and which ones you're going to re-roll, and you get to do it a second time. And you kind of have to pick, like, oh, I'm going to try and go all punchy, or I'm going to try to heal up, or I'm going to try to whatever. But those dice may not roll what you're hoping for, and so you're kind of pushing your luck, right? And that one is a knockout game, so, depending on the...
It's also super fast.
It's also super fast because you're competing to take over Tokyo. You're in these big mech suits. I always play the giant bunny robot. And you're attacking each other until everybody gets knocked out and you're the king of Tokyo. The other example of the push your luck, which I think this one is easier for any group to play, and you can do it with as many people as you want, is Zombie Dice. Mm-hmm. And Zombie Dice is a push your luck. You're trying to eat brains and not get
Shotgunned.
Not get shotgunned. And so you roll the dice and you're trying for as many brains as you can on your turn before you get 3 shotguns. So you're kind of pushing your luck. You're like, oh, I got 1 shotgun, but I only have 1 brain, so I'm going to roll all the other dice again. And then you end up with 4 shotguns and no brains. Well, you lose all the brains you gained on that turn. And now it's the next person's turn and they do it. And it's like the first person to 13 brain points wins. And you can play it with as many people as you want and sit there and chat with people and just hang out around a kitchen table and roll dice. So that would be my recommendation for push your luck type games would be Zombie Dice or King of Tokyo.
The nice thing about both those games is the elevator pitch is super simple. Everyone can understand right from the jump.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
You are a monster fighting other monsters, trying
Yep.
to take over Tokyo.
Yep.
Great. I gotcha. I know exactly what we're doing. Makes sense. You are zombies. You want to eat brains and not get shotgun.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is the simplest pitch.
Yeah.
The downside of King of Tokyo is, honestly, if as weird as it sounds, if you remove the cards, I think the game is perfect for a amateur audience.
I do
yes.
too. The cards you can buy, that makes it more complicated.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You could totally ditch the energy and the card mechanic and just go for attacks and hearts.
Yeah.
Yeah, who cares if no strategy, or it's pointless, or just you get to roll dice and it's like
move your cool monster around and go attack. I'm killing Tokyo, yar.
Yeah. So
Now, I know what King of Tokyo is, and we've played it before, but for this entire show, I've been sitting there looking at it, and in my head, it's been Smash Up, and I was like, why? Why Smash Up?
I almost put Smash Up on the list because it's really easy to explain. But
there's a lot on the cards.
Well, the early packs were really easy. Like the early combinations were really easy to read and explain, and the rules were very clear. But as they've added more and more packs to it, the more complicated it's become. And now it's not, the entry to it is a lot higher. I mean, we've played it with my mother-in-law. Like that's when it first came out, and it wasn't that difficult. But as it's gotten harder, or as they've added more packs to it, it's become too complicated, I think, for entry level.
The game time, the duration balloons with more players. So, like, if you end up with more than 3 or 4 players, it goes over an hour and a half easy.
Yeah.
Which can be a little long for that sort of.
And the game is complicated enough that it's I think one of Smash Up's biggest weaknesses is it is super easy to get a deck that does not.
A combo, yeah.
The deck style that the two sides do not complement it, or even work in opposition.
Yeah.
And if you are that person, you're like, why aren't I having fun like everyone else is?
Yeah.
So I have one last recommendation. I forgot to put it on the sheet, but I just thought of it, which is a game that if you've got kids around, would be a great game to play for any age group. We've played it with a whole bunch of people. It's called Pooh.
Oh, Pooh, yeah.
And you play monkeys, and you're throwing poo at each other.
Yeah.
And you don't want to get to, I think it's 15 poo on you, or you get knocked out because you're covered in poo. And you could use buttons, you could use coins, you could use whatever, but it's this little card game where you play cards on each other, you fling poo at each other, you clean poo off yourself. It's
you
very
rub poo
silly.
off of yourself onto someone else.
Yeah, it's a very silly game. We bought it when our kid was probably like 6 or 7. It was one of the very first games he ever played. No, he has to have been like 5 or 6 when we bought it. Anyway, it was really, really easy. The cards themselves don't have anything to read on them, or if they do, it's very simple words.
All it says is how much poo you either fling or rub on someone else.
Right, or how much you clean off yourself, which you can if they can read numbers and they can understand pictures, they could play Pooh.
Yeah.
We use the bennies that we use for Savage Worlds as our Pooh that we fling at people. But it's a really great game, I think.
And you can kind of flick the bead across the table at someone like, take the Pooh.
Yeah, so if you're Uncle Ed or whatever, and you're like, oh man, these kids, they're driving me crazy. They're running around screaming. If only I had a game I could play. Pick up Pooh and take it with you to a family event, because you could get all the kids, and they'd love it. I mean, kids think Pooh is hilarious. So the idea of playing a monkey who flings Pooh on their brother or sister would, that would definitely be a hit.
Have Pooh off tank the kids while you play a better game with the older folks.
That is also a very good idea. But that is a very good idea. I mean, Pooh is it's a card game, and it's a very small pack. So you could bring it with you, teach the kids how to play it in a second, and keep them busy while you guys are drinking eggnog in the kitchen or something. So definitely a good game to have.
Cool.
Well, cool. Does anybody have any final thoughts on board games before we say goodnight?
Well, I had a couple more things I added to the list, but it sounds like we're going to cut.
I didn't look up there. I'm sorry.
I do want to mention, well, you have Ticket to Ride, which didn't get mentioned.
I already talked about that.
Yeah.
Oh, you talked about it?
Okay. Free list.
I jumped it and did it first.
So
you jumped the shark.
So I jumped into the gauntlet to ask people what they thought about like what games they would recommend. And Yoshi, who was on our Big Bad Con episode, he recommended Azul, which I have been meaning to pick up because it looks really pretty. It is a game of mosaic tile laying, where you play a mosaic tile artist and you have to decorate the palace. And so you have to buy tiles, and then you have to make certain patterns out of the shapes on the tiles.
Okay.
And you get points based on how pretty your design looks and what, how many of your tiles you used. So it looks really cool, and it came highly recommended by someone I would trust to make those sort of choices.
Yeah.
Another recommendation, and this is if you're interested in doing an RPG, if you want to try an RPG, you want to run it and facilitate it. A couple recommendations
Kurt's
were
always gonna try.
Well, it might be worthwhile. One of the recommendations was Lasers and Feelings by John Harper. It is it's one of those games where you only need a single D6, and your stat is you pick high or low, I think. So like you may have a 5, and high is gun, or high is lasers, and low is feelings, right? And so if you roll above on your D6, then you did the feelings, and if you roll below, you did the lasers, and that's it, right? So you pick, is this action lasers or feelings? And you roll your die, and you either have to go above or below your number based on what you picked. And so it's super brain dead simple to choose. It's extremely thematic. It will require someone to run the game. So if you're the type of person who can sit down and explain rules and steer the story, it's definitely one you could pick up. And there's so many hacks of it for different genres. Like Lasers and Feelings is very much
it's been 20 minutes and you're trying to pimp your game again.
Sharks and
if you're super into shark movies, you can use Guns and Sharks, which I wrote. But you can also use there's several different versions of Lasers and Feelings out there. If you look for Lasers and Feelings hack, there's lists. Another one that got mentioned was The Quiet Year.
Oh yeah, I could see.
Which uses a regular deck of cards, and it's a map drawing game. So you take turns drawing a card and then adding something to the map that sort of is defined by what card you drew.
The Quiet Year is a really, I think it's not exactly an RPG, but it definitely lends itself to being an RPG if you want it to be. Mm-hmm. But you're building a world together, and so it definitely tilts itself towards that role-playing game more than like sitting and playing a board game.
Yeah, the Quiet Year was recommended by several people, but Tomes and a few other people that we've talked about before. So those are some that I would look into. Like I said earlier, if you're going to pick a story game, Fiasco is a good example of this.
I would take Fiasco over most of those others because there's enough structure.
There's rules.
I feel to at least make people feel like they're basically playing a weird game of Whose Line Is It Anyway.
Right. Fiasco is definitely build a Coen Brothers movie together type of game.
Yeah.
So that's another one that was recommended. But keep in mind that someone is going to have to be able to sort of run the show and be in charge and facilitate those games.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Well, cool. We are definitely over our hour at this point, so I think it's time to wrap everything up. Kurt, you want to give everybody a quick rundown of where they can find us on the internet besides here?
Sure. Yeah. If
wherever
people would
here is for you.
Yeah. If people would like to find us, they can go to pixelscandal.com. And find past episodes of the show, links to all relevant places. If they'd like to watch us live, they can head to twitch.tv/pixelscandal. That's also where they can support the show. If you'd like to support us, you like what we're doing, and you wanna throw us some bones, you can subscribe on Twitch. And if you have Amazon Prime, you can use Twitch Prime to subscribe for free. If you're not already subscribing to another streamer, which you of course are welcome to do. But yeah, it's a free service.
No, it must be our stream.
If you've got Amazon Prime, you got Twitch Prime. All you have to do is link your accounts. And if you're going to be with your family and all of them have Amazon Prime, remind them to come and watch our stream. And
I have a stream. I think they're really awesome. Yeah, you guys don't use Twitch anyway.
Quick, give me your Amazon login. I need to go and sub to a channel.
Yeah.
Subtlety is not your strong suit.
We'd greatly appreciate it. Also, if you'd like to watch past videos of our shows, you can find us on YouTube. Go search Pixel Scandal there. We don't have a vanity URL because we need 100 subscribers to get a vanity URL. So if you like watching our stuff in the after we record it live, you can find it there and like and subscribe and all that kind of stuff over there because it really helps us out. And if you'd like to get this show as an audio feed, you can find us on iTunes or Spotify or any podcatcher of your choice. It's not a turkey.
Did you hear how aggressively he said catcher because he was afraid of what we were going to say?
It's December.
Yeah, we're done with that, Kurt.
Oh, thank God.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now it's a pod slay.
Pod tree.
I don't like this game.
I don't like
Pod
this
tree.
I don't like this game.
And of course, if you'd like to contact the show, you can do so by emailing pixelscandal@gmail.com.
And don't forget that next week's show is going to be on romance with our special guest,
Alex Roberts.
Alex Roberts. We will be here at 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time for that wonderful discussion, and we hope you join in and watch.
Yeah, come jump in chat and ask us questions.
Yeah.
Yeah, come watch us cover the awkward topic.
Well, we're going to talk about how to try to not make it awkward. So
Well, and yeah,
maybe that's something that, we need to talk about on how to make things easier for us to do as
Maybe
gaming
that's
groups.
something that we need to have a chat with Handor about off stream because he's a little bit aggressive with the romance.
I'm really
I could
hoping
say
he's
that
going to be here
because-
next week.
I could say that because he's not here to defend himself.
Well, of course, the X card is always on the table.
I think he did just fine. He just held my hand. It's fine.
X card, triple X card. But they're right next to each other.
I think there's a double X card in the middle.
Thank you so much for joining us tonight.
All right, thanks a lot, everybody. Have a good night.
Farewell.
Bye.
Bye.